When you're operating the world's most heavily utilized railway, pride in performance is more than desirable, it's a vital prerequisite. In a city where time and money are synonymous, the mass transit railway provides a dynamic day and night service which links all major residential, industrial and commercial districts. Every day the corporation's trains ply the 43-kilometre route, each with a capacity to carry 2,500 passengers, the equivalent load of 8 jumbo jets. And during peak periods, 76 trains are in operation at any one time. With over 2 million people using the system every day, the city's transport network would be reduced to chaos were it not for the MTR absorbing 26% of daily public transport journeys. Something in the order of 1,000 double-decker buses and 500 ferries would be needed to move the equivalent amount of people around the city's already congested roads and waterways. The route design, combined with Hong Kong's geographical layout, has resulted in an MTR station being within a 10-minute walk of half of all commuters' homes and workplaces. In fact, the railway has become so essential to the city's well-being that it's been said that Hong Kong without it is now hardly conceivable. Although the city is completely dependent on the MTR today, it was only as recently as the early 70s that a decision was made to put the system in. Hong Kong is actually an ideal place for an underground system. Its population live in heavily overcrowded land plateaus, hemmed in by steep hillsides and the sea. As a result, the city has some of the most densely populated living environments in the world, with little land left for new roads and highways. With 6 million people being the territory's only real resource, all forms of public transport are heavily utilized, moving the workforce around. Today, road congestion is still chronic, even with an underground system. And the queues are still present. But it's now a question of how many times longer they would be were it not for the MTR. Stately reminders from the past still serve the city faithfully. But they lack the speed and immediacy demanded by today's commuters. It was in 1972 that the government announced it was going to proceed with the construction of an underground railway. A bill was passed enabling a public statutory body to be established for the principal purpose of constructing and operating on prudent commercial principles a mass transit railway, having regard to the reasonable requirements of the public transport system of Hong Kong. A steering group was set up and preparatory work began. Norman Thompson was appointed the corporation's first chairman, and although the government provided an initial equity injection of $800 million, his first major task was to raise the rest of the required finance through a variety of loan instruments. In November 1975, at a small groundbreaking ceremony, construction of the railway finally began. Although the corporation supervised overall construction, each contractor was free to submit designs, subject only to tender specification. Property deals were struck whereby residential estates and commercial centres were to be built on MTR land. Technical problems facing the contractors were formidable. Soil conditions couldn't have been worse for driving tunnels. Consisting mainly of decomposed granite and alluvial deposits, large boulders were frequently encountered, slowing tunneling work considerably. Compressed air techniques were also necessary to hold back large quantities of water, which would have otherwise flooded the drives and caused subsidence above. With the modified initial system, as it was called, proceeding on time and within budget, it was decided in mid-1977 to extend the system to the satellite new town of Chunwan. Within 2 years, breakthrough ceremonies were becoming a regular event, with more and more sections of the line becoming operational. Then, in February 1980, the full modified initial system was officially opened by Her Royal Highness Princess Alexandra 7 weeks ahead of schedule. During Chinese New Year, a week later, nearly 1 million people used the system in one 24-hour period. The MTR had arrived. By 1982, with the Chunwan extension complete, construction of the Island Line, the third artery of the system, was underway. A second crossing on the eastern side of the harbour was also planned, but this project was started after the Island Line and also included a road element. It was built privately and leased to the corporation over an 18-and-a-half-year period. Even with the experience gained on the first two lines, construction of the Island Line was difficult and expensive as a result of exceptionally poor soil conditions. Tunneling shields and compressed air were frequently required. A memorable site during construction was Taiku Cavern, which at the time was the largest man-made cavern in Asia. While on the surface, half a mountain had to be removed to make way for one of the corporation's property development schemes. With all major civil works complete, there was 18 months left to complete station finishing and install all the electrical and mechanical equipment. 18 months to make the system operational. Despite the difficulties, in May 1985, the Island Line was proudly opened on schedule and within budget. The corporation's second chairman, Wilfred Newton, officiated at the opening ceremony with the then governor of the territory, Sir Edward Yu. With all three lines running, Wilfred Newton's role was now to see the corporation out of an engineering and construction phase into a purely operational one. At this stage, the corporation had invested $7 billion on the modified initial system, $5.5 billion on the Chunwan extension, and $12 billion on the Island Line. The Eastern Harbour crossing would be leased at the 1989 dollar rate of $1.25 billion, payable over an 18-and-a-half-year period. Construction of the railway was funded principally by government equity, loans, and property development profit. Wilfred Newton initiated the restructuring of the preferred debt profile of the corporation, something that was accomplished during his 5 years with the MTR. In 1989, Wilfred Newton retired, and the chairmanship passed on to Hamish Mathers, whose first official function was opening the rail section of the second harbour crossing with His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales.
Well, gentlemen, these statements and objectives, together with our yearly budget, our 5-year longer-term forecast, and the ordinance.
The MTR board consists of a chairman and 6 executive directors who oversee the running of the corporation, as well as 8 government-appointed non-executive members from both the public and private sector. With this mix of directors, the corporation is able to benefit from a broad base of government and business experience. Hong Kong has a fast-moving and competitive environment, and transport is no exception. The public has a choice of using many transport modes. Whilst the government is the sole shareholder of the MTR, the corporation retains its independence and acts as a commercial organisation able to attract passengers and set fare structures, which is imperative given the size of the railway's capital investment. The corporation's commercial drive is best illustrated by its taking advantage of land occupied by railway facilities for building residential and commercial units, including the use of the airspace above its depots. The corporation paid the government for land, then entered into agreements with developers who financed project construction, with the proceeds from the sales of the completed units being shared between the developer and the MTR. The first such undertaking was Telford Gardens at the railway's headquarters in Kowloon Bay. Although the concept of high-rise apartments combined with operational facilities was unique at the time, it has proven well conceived and profitable. The workshops located below podium level contain all the machinery for the maintenance of the corporation's rolling stock. The success of Telford Gardens prompted the concept to be duplicated at the Chun Wan depot, where an additional 4,000 apartments were built. All in all, 18 developments have taken place on MTR land, providing 31,000 residential apartments as well as 250,000 square meters of commercial space, generating nearly $4 billion to meet railway construction costs. Stations have also been opened up to commercial operations. There's poster advertising on a scale unique even in Hong Kong, as well as many commercial retail outlets for the convenience of passengers. This income, combined with property management, provides for 13% of the corporation's recurrent annual income. With passengers contributing the bulk of the corporation's annual earnings, every effort is made to ensure their transit through the MTR system is as smooth as possible. Stations are spacious and are served by many escalators. Trains are among the largest in the world, are air-conditioned, computer-controlled, and operate at 2-minute intervals during peak periods. In addition, the ticketing system is fully automated, stored value tickets being the most commonly used. Individual journeys are automatically deducted at the exit gate, and these tickets can also be used on other transport modes connecting with MTR stations. To further ensure passenger needs are being fully met, their views are sought on a regular basis through the commissioning of passenger surveys. Since operations began in 1980, more than 500,000 people have been interviewed in 130 separate surveys. Feedback is analysed and improvements in service implemented, such as ticket issuing machines operated by credit card and ticket value readers. With daily passenger figures topping 2 million, the railway is the most densely utilised system per kilometre of track in the world. But even with this patronage, the corporation is not complacent. It continues to advertise, particularly to attract greater off-peak usage via TV commercials with the theme, "Say MTR, and you're almost there." As a service organisation, the corporation's nearly 5,000 staff are the key component in ensuring customer satisfaction. Personnel initiatives to meet their aspirations are constantly being implemented, including the first staff attitude survey ever undertaken by a Hong Kong company. Great emphasis is also placed on human resource development, with some $20 million being spent annually on training. Management training courses and seminars are regular events for the corporation's 200+ managers, the focus being on customer service training and managerial skills development. The MTR's commitment in providing an excellent service to the public and maintaining high standards of performance are embodied in the adoption of a core value program. Aimed at creating a spirit of enthusiasm and belonging, it's built on three key values: customer service, respect for the individual, and on time and within budget. Competent and motivated staff are the products of careful training, as well as attractive terms of employment. And the corporation now prides itself in offering the people of Hong Kong the best customer service among all local transport operators. With a decade of high standards of safety and service behind it, the corporation's success is reflected in its record of actually making a significant operating profit. Annual revenue has now reached some 2.7 billion. Operating expenditure consists principally of staff and energy costs. Operating margin is approaching 60%. Looking ahead, prospects are good. Net profit after interest is anticipated by 1992, with all debts retired by the turn of the century. In recognition of its financial strength, the corporation's international credit ratings are the highest of any company in Hong Kong, and it was voted third in the world as the most professional user of the international capital markets. The corporation is now participating with the Hong Kong government in a feasibility study for the proposed new airport development, which will be the largest capital works project ever undertaken in the territory. Large areas of land will be reclaimed on an offshore island, as well as in Kowloon and Hong Kong, and a new rail and road network constructed linking the urban areas with the new airport. Subject to satisfactory conclusions, a formal agreement could be entered into with the government, making the corporation responsible for the design, construction, financing and operation of the railway link and related services. In serving the city of Hong Kong so effectively, the government mandate establishing an independent corporation in the mid-70s has now been fulfilled. From its birth as a construction company less than 2 decades ago, the MTR has now matured into one of Hong Kong's major operating companies and is one of the most successful railways in the world. As an independent organization, the corporation, through its financial and operational expertise, has been able, without subsidy in a free market environment, to operate a unique railway which is both efficient and commercially viable, capable of handling Hong Kong's transport needs long into the future.